Welcome to Energetic Advantage, the podcast where energy isn't woo, it's your edge. I'm your host, Jessica Serrato, intuitive strategist, lifelong pattern decoder, lover of numbers, and energetic guide for visionary leaders. Around here, we go energy first, strategy second. Every episode will give you a perspective, a tool, or a timeline shift that helps you lead from your power. Because the truth is, your energy is your most undervalued asset until you learn how to use it. Get ready, you're about to have the advantage. Let's begin. Hey, welcome back. This episode is inspired by the question that I get asked a lot, which is, what exactly do you do? And it makes me laugh because honestly, every time I hear my kids trying to answer this question, it's like a full-on roast. According to them, I, number one, spend a lot of time sitting with my eyes closed. I play games with cards. I talk to guides that are like people who are here, but actually not like real life people. And I write a whole bunch of numbers and symbols on the paper that don't even add up. It's kind of like math, but not. And the last one I heard was she basically just has meetings all day with like the universe, which honestly, rude, but also not wrong. So today I am setting the record straight. I will tell you exactly what it is that I do. And also, by now, this episode isn't really just about me. I want you to listen to it through a very specific lens, which is what might be possible for you. Here we go. People think I tell the future. They think energy work, numerology, intuition, it's all about prediction. What's going to happen, when it's going to happen, whether it's good, quote unquote, or bad. And yes, I can see things coming, but that's not what I do. Because telling someone what's going to happen is very different than helping them participate in what's trying to happen. And that difference is everything. Fortune telling puts the future out there, like it's already decided, like it's a package en route and we're just sitting here refreshing the tracking number. It sounds comforting until you realize what it is subtly teaching you. Wait, prepare, brace, hope. And over time, something even more discouraging and quite honestly dangerous happens, which is people stop moving, they stop choosing, they stop trusting themselves, and they outsource authority to timing, signs, or like someone else's insight. Fortune telling answers curiosity, but it does not build capacity. And leadership, creation, expansion, all of these things don't come from waiting. And so I don't fortune tell, but I do forecast. And there was a moment in my work where I really started to notice this. I could very clearly see and sense, and I would tell people what I saw coming. But some of them, upon hearing that information, would freeze. And they'd say something like, okay, well, I'll just wait then. Or I guess it's not time yet. Or if it's going to happen anyway, then I'll hold off with this. And other people that I shared with, I gave them the same insight, but they had a wildly different outcome. And here's what I realized through that. Information without orientation is paralyzing. And I'm not here just to narrate timelines. I'm here to help people move through them. And so let me be clear, I do see disruptions. I do see what is coming. I've seen red tape around a client's field and knew that her visa would get canceled weeks before it did. I saw a book deal collapse before the email canceling it was ever sent. And I felt a system shake so clearly that I actually felt the earthquake in my body. And I knew that a client's entire tech stack would go down. So from the outside, that sounds like prediction, but that's not how it functions in my work. Because I don't see these things as quote unquote bad news. I see them as early signals, and early signals are power. So I'm going to actually go deeper into those client situations so we can really unpack them and you can really feel and hear the difference. So let's start with that visa. Okay, so I was working with a client and she was planning events, travel, and really her business expansion based on the assumption that her PR process, which she was currently in, would wrap up smoothly sometime in the next few months. But in her field, I saw the red tape, clear as day. And I said, listen, I don't think this is going to be as smooth as you're anticipating. I see friction. I see this red tape around your visa in this specific window. And I gave her a time frame. Fast forward to that exact time frame, and she sent me a message. It probably had a few swear words in it, essentially like, you were right, my visa has been canceled and my PR track is gone. And here's the thing, it wasn't a shock. Yes, it was disappointing. Yes, of course. But it wasn't destabilizing because we had it in our knowing she could pivot faster. She didn't waste weeks trying to force a closed door. She made these new decisions from reality, not fantasy. And that is activation. You know, that other client had a publication date set for her book. Everything looked perfect on paper. But I heard and saw very clearly that she was going to receive something, a question, information that was going to make her question, are you sure? So I told her, listen, be open here. Something is going to interrupt the story that you've been told by this person, and it's actually good information. And on the exact day that I named, she got the email. The deal wasn't as solid as she had been led to believe. But because she wasn't blindsided, she didn't spiral. She already had other options in her mind, and she moved through it faster, cleaner, or stronger because she had that information. This last one is a funny one because I had a larger corporate client, and they were migrating tech systems. And in choosing a day to kind of do that final shift between the old and the new, they asked me, like, what day would be best for this? And as I was feeling into the time frame they gave me, I told them what day not to do it on. This one really still makes me laugh. Okay. So I was like, don't do it on this day. But here's where free will and choice come into the equation. So logistics happen, right? Vacation schedules, timelines, a little bit of human stubbornness. And the project lead, this person on the project, put his foot down. And he was like, listen, this is the last day, like a couple people in the office before we want to go on vacation. Like, we need to do it that day. And then he was like, why? What do you feel on that day? Like, why shouldn't we do it that day? And I remember closing my eyes and feeling into it. And I said, it feels like the ground is shaking underneath my feet. Like the foundation won't hold. The earth feels shaky that day. And also, I wrote that in my calendar, my energetic calendar for that month. So everybody who gets my calendar also have that information. And so here again is where free will comes in. I'm not here to override people, right? I'm here to help them respond to it well. So when he told me, well, thanks, Jess, but that has to be the day, I didn't argue with him. We got strategic. So we put provisions in place. We allowed for dual maintenance of the systems, so they were mirroring each other. We scheduled extra customer support on that day. We had rollback plans just in case something happened on that day. And that day came, and I remember standing in my kitchen, and there was a literal earthquake. The earth moved underneath my feet, just like I had felt it was going to weeks before. And at that exact moment, I got a message from the client. And just like there was an actual earthquake, they are also located here in BC, their migration shook right along with it. And of course, the migration to the new system collapsed. But it didn't take them down because they were prepared. All of those provisions we had in place, they were able to utilize. And so what was a major disruption, right? Or could have been a disaster for them on that day. Yes, those were hiccups, but it wasn't, I guess, as catastrophic as it could have been. And I laugh because the very next meeting, I didn't tell them, I told you so, but the energy was definitely in the room. And because of that, there is this trust in the energetic cycles for them that, again, this doesn't mean that they will never or always choose, like, depending on what I say and share, but I guarantee we will always put provisions in when I see something coming. When we see a collapse before it happens, we're not being punished. We are being positioned. That red tape didn't mean like failure. It just meant like that route was closing. So can you choose differently? That book deal falling apart didn't mean you missed your chance. It just meant that that container couldn't hold what she was becoming. And that system going down for my clients didn't mean that everything was broken. It just meant, okay, like what you're building has outgrown the infrastructure. So I never tell clients, this will happen to you. I say, this is the energy that you're currently in relationship with. Now, what do you want to do about it? That is activation. And underneath this is the core truth that time is not a straight line. It's not rigid. It's not locked in. What does time respond to? Readiness, choice, embodiment, willingness to move. Two people can have the same chart, the same thing, the same opportunity. One person waits and the other person engages in the energy. And yeah, you guessed it. They land in completely different realities. Not because fate chose favorites or one was lucky and the other was not. It's because your availability and your willingness to go with the energy matters. This is what we call timeline activation. And this is what I do. So timeline activation is not about telling you what will happen. It is about showing you what's already in motion, where momentum exists. It kind of like you look out to the ocean and you can see a wave starting to form, where resistance within your field is trying perhaps to protect you. What version of you is already ready and what version of you perhaps needs to do something differently in order to be ready. So I help clients orient to where they're standing, which doors are real and ready to open, which ones are closing, and which ones require them to step forward first. So I don't say this is your future. I say this is what responds when you move. And this is also why sometimes what I see so clearly does not happen. Not because it wasn't real, not because it was wrong, but because focus and intention truly matter in energetics. So when I'm working with a client, I'm tuning into what they are actively orienting towards. So if a client comes in with a clear intention, so let's say finding a partner, finding a romantic partner, that desire for me becomes the focal point because that is what they want. So that is the timeline I am reading. That is the thread I am following. And that's what I am moving closer and closer to them. But we know that timelines aren't static. And as time moves on, people move, right? Priorities shift, focus changes. So maybe this client decides to pour their energy back into their business. Maybe their capacity changes. Maybe something else becomes more live or more urgent or more true in the moment. And when their focus shifts, the timeline shifts with it. So if the relationship doesn't materialize the way it once looked like it would, it's not because that outcome wasn't possible. It's just because the client themselves changed course. And so the timelines no longer converge, not due to failure, but due to choice. And this is actually one of the most empowering parts of my work. It shows that nothing is locked in. You are not at the mercy of a prediction. You are in relationship with time. And time responds to where you place your energy, your attention, and your willingness to move. And that is all your choice. When I think about the energy of this year, leaders do not wait for guarantees, and creators don't wait for permission. Activated people don't ask, will this work? Instead, they ask, okay, am I available for this version of myself? Fortune telling asks you to observe time. Timeline activation asks you to enter it. One might keep you safe as an observer, but the other makes you sovereign. And this is such a beautiful remembering here of we activate the choice. So now is where I'm really going to answer that question that I started with. What do I actually do? And more importantly, what can you, the listener, actually do with this? Because most people ask me, like, what is numerology? And I actually think that's the wrong question. The real question is, like, what can you do with it? I'm not interested, honestly, in what something is or isn't. My favorite question to ask, and I know it's like the most annoying question, is whenever someone gets an insight or aha, or they learn something new, my immediate question is, so what? What are you going to do with this? Because knowledge, information is not what moves the needle. What you do with it does, right? What you choose to do with it. So it is this decision-making system, a timing tool, a pattern decoder. And really, one of the things I use to create this energetic advantage, like in life, leadership, money, momentum, whatever it is, okay? So if we think specifically just to numerology, numbers don't label you. If you go back to my episode on metrics that matter, numbers say nothing about you. They inform you. They show where the energy flows, where it sticks, where timing is really supportive versus where timing might feel a little bit sticky, what patterns repeat until you choose to interrupt them. And this is why two people can take the same strategy and get wildly different results, because strategy is not the whole story. The person implementing the strategy, their energy, that's the story. And so this goes into your personal chart, which is your operating system. This is your default setting, right? What I look at are these energetic patterns, these numbers, these geometrical shapes that are all in your DNA, in your unique body. And it shows you so many things: how you lead, how you decide, how you respond under pressure, how you create, how you receive, how you sabotage when you're tired or overwhelmed or trying to be someone you're not. So I don't ask clients, like, what should you do? We talk about what's already working in their field and what are they forcing, because forcing is really expensive and it's draining. And so how can you use your energetic advantage that's already in you? It's coded within you. How can you use that so it feels more effortless? Now, here's the thing. We don't live in isolation. This part matters so much because you're not this chart or this energy floating around in space. You are this energy in relationship with a partner, kids, clients, a team, an audience, a business, a family system, a calendar, an environment, whatever it is. So I don't just look at your numbers. Again, like I said, any numerologist can look at your numbers. You can ask ChatGPT for your numbers, but I wouldn't be a very good numerologist if I only did that. I look at your numbers and your energy beside other numbers. Side-by-side charts change everything, because suddenly we can see, if we're looking at two people, why communication breaks down, why one of you moves fast and the other person needs a bit more space, why one person processes emotionally and the other processes logically, why you might be doing the same thing but landing totally differently, what each person needs from each other. And this is where relationships get easier, right? Not because people change overnight, but because you finally understand the operating system you are dealing with in the other person. And when I just think of a specific example here, when we look at the Pythagorean chart, We have these seasons of 9 years. And in these seasons, there are two very important energies at play. The first is the peak. This is what we are really striving for. This is most important to us. This is our dharma, our work in this lifetime. And the second data point in this season is the valley. And this is our challenge, what really is frustrating us during this time period as we work to achieve our goals. And I laugh because in my last season, I had a specific peak that I was working towards, and I knew it. And the funniest thing happened is when I noticed friction within a relationship, I went to my husband's chart and I saw that the exact thing that was so important for me to achieve was his literal valley. It was his frustration. And once I saw that, I was like, okay. And once I knew that, I couldn't change the energy, but I knew how to approach it differently. And yes, of course, we use this in business also. Between a founder or a CEO and the team, between your brand and your audience, between you and your offer, anytime two energies are connecting, we have to look at how these two energies go with each other. And yes, you and your ideal client. The second part of this is timing. And timing is energetic. So, and I really don't play in just launch it in quarter one. That is not helpful for me. We get much more precise in my world. So we look at personal day numbers, month and yearly cycles, universal energies, again, how your chart is interacting with a collective timing. And the same action on 2 different days does not land the same. I promise you. There are specific days to pitch, to rest, to decide, to have that hard conversation, to launch, renegotiate, be visible, build. Many times when clients come to me, the problem is not what they are doing. It is when they are choosing to do it. And that's why timing for me is everything and has to be part of the conversation. And we talked about relationships with other people, other energies, but the other thing we look at is numbers of places, of locations, right? So we can look at home addresses. We can look at your business name. We can look at offer names, right? If numerology is a language, which it is, language plays a huge part in the energetics. So each number corresponds to a specific letter in the alphabet. And because of that, the words that we're choosing to use also have energy. Because if the container isn't aligned, energy leaks, no matter how good the strategy is. So why does any of this matter? Is it just fun? Sure, it's fun. But it is so effective and impactful because this is the difference between positioning and pushing, hustling and aligning, waiting and activating, hoping and leading, right? I'm not here to predict your life. I'm here to help you feel where it is already moving and decide if you are willing to meet it. The future is not waiting for you. It is waiting with you. And the moment you stop asking, what's going to happen? And start asking, okay, what's asking me to move here? And what is the best move I can make and when? Everything changes. So I hope this episode at least started to answer the question, what is it that I actually do? But more than that, I hope it really gives you this felt sense of what is possible when you stop waiting for the future and start relating to it differently. Because this work, again, is not about being told what will happen. It's about learning how to listen, how to orient, and how to move in a way that creates momentum instead of friction. And in all reality, I think the best way to understand this work isn't to hear me talk about it, it's to experience it. And so if you are curious what it looks like to have an expert look at your patterns, your timings, your relationship, your next move, again, not to predict your life, but to activate what is already trying to move, I do offer a limited amount of one-off sessions. You can find the link in the show notes. This is for new to me only people. And because you're here, because you listened, because you're podcast people, you can use the promo code podcast for a special rate off a one-off session. If this episode stirred something in you, pay attention to that. That nudge, that niggling, that stirring inside is usually where the timeline is already responding. Okay, so now it's time to go back to my other work, which is playing with cards, talking to people with my eyes closed, and having meetings with the universe. My personal favorite. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being curious. And thank you for making an investment in your future, because that is exactly what you're doing anytime you open yourself up to work more with your energetic advantage, not against it. See you next time. Thanks for being here inside the Energetic Advantage. If today's episode opened something for you, share it, tag it, or send to the person who popped into your mind. And remember, energy first, strategy second. Your advantage has always been in you. Now it's time to lead with it. See you next time.